Just 2 weeks ago, Moondrop released two headphones back to back, starting with this Moondrop Horizon here, priced at 199 US dollar. And not long after that, 1 week after that, I think they released this Moondrop Para 2, both of them being open back, both of them being made of steel or metal. And the difference being is that, of course, obviously, aside from the color, the driver, this one is a 50mm dynamic driver, and this one is 100mm magnetic planar driver. So let's just have a closer look at the build and the construction. I will not be talking too much about the build of this Horizon here because you might have seen my unboxing video on it and you might have seen what are the contents and everything. But let me just talk about some of the wear factor. You see, just to get a bit of perspective, let's just talk about the weight itself first, okay? Many of you would already be familiar with this Sennheiser HD600, which is entirely made of plastic with this steel mesh here. And this HD600, without the cable, weighs at around 250 grams. Very lightweight for a headphone. Because this Horizon here, the weight of this Horizon is at around 350 grams actually, give and take. And this one is the heaviest among all of them, probably the heaviest headphone that I had in my collection now. Exactly half a kilo. Let me repeat, half a kilo, precisely at around 513 grams. So, when wearing this, you might be wondering which one feels more comfortable. See, this Horizon here, despite being made of steel and 100 grams heavier than this Sennheiser HD600, it is in fact the most comfortable among all three of them, or even the most comfortable among all of the headphones which I have around me at this moment, because the clamp force is just nice. The band here holds my head really well, and I can easily adjust it and it can still pivot like this. It is definitely the kind of headphone which I am able to wear the whole day through. But it is slightly a different story when it comes to this Horizon Para 2 here, because as you would notice, entirely made of steel, like I say, half a kilo. So when you place it like this over your head, first thing that you're gonna feel is the weight of it. Yes, this thing is heavy. But the good thing is that despite being heavy, it is also very comfortable because you notice the band here, it is quite wide, and the clamp itself is also relaxed. And this circumaural thing here, it places further away from the ear. So which means that despite being heavy, once you place it on your ear, on your head, and being able to get that kind of position which is comfortable to you, then I have no issue as well wearing it for at least at around up to 3 hours. But then of course the weight will still kind of like remind me there's something heavy on top of my head where this thing would disappear. And both of them are pretty much modular. It comes with this similar type of cable here. Both of them are being clad in black. So this is the cable for the Horizon, which is modular as well. You can easily change the plug here from 3.5mm single-ended to 4.4mm balance. And surprisingly, or interestingly, the Para 2 comes with this ribbon type flat cable here, which also comes with this 3.5mm termination, similar to half-mm style. Also, the same can be said for this Horizon here. But the plug here comes with 4.4mm balance termination. And Moondrop have opted to include this adapter here, which will just simply transform this into 3.5mm single-ended termination. Alright, now let's talk about driving these two headphones here. Which one is the easiest to drive and what kind of source do you need to drive them properly? Okay, starting with this Horizon here, which is by the way rated at 32 ohm with the sensitivity at around 109 dB, I think. This is definitely the easiest to drive among all of them. But how easy it is? It is in fact, surprisingly, quite comparable to this Sennheiser HD600 here, despite this Sennheiser HD600 being rated at 300 ohm, because as I noted here, when I run Sennheiser HD600 driven from this 750 milliwatt single-ended DAC amp here, which is X Duo XD05 Basic version 2, I needed the volume at around 48 out of 100 to drive Sennheiser HD 600 here. Okay, 48 out of 100. And the most surprising thing is that when I connect this Horizon here to the same DAC amp, running the same song, running in turbo mode, just like the HD 600, I needed the volume at around 42 out of 100. So is this just simply like 6 steps more efficient than HD 600 despite being rated at 32 ohm? And then talking about the juggernaut here, this Para 2 here needed at around 52 out of 100 in order to achieve similar level of volume as compared to the other two. So this is definitely, surprisingly, or without a surprise, would require a bit more of power in order to achieve proper headroom. Just give me a moment. I think my cat is like... Okay. Geoff, Oreo, stop. Now, sorry about that. I have to break a fight between Oreo and Geoff here. The big brother, he's bullying the smaller Oreo, of course. Geoff, please don't... Alright, where was I? Okay, I was saying, talking about the power. So, between the three of them, okay, it is obvious that this Para 2, despite being rated at 9 ohm, I repeat 9 ohm, I have measured it with my multimeter and indeed it is 9 ohm, and with sensitivity at around 106 dB, it is surprisingly the hardest to drive among all of them. And I might even say that when I tested all these three headphones using something like a dongle like this, which is a 4.4 mm balanced terminated Venture Electronic Devastator. Okay, let me just have a look here. Okay, in order to achieve proper listening level on this Sennheiser HD 600, I needed the volume at around 90 out of 100 when connected to this via my phone here. And when this Para here, it is almost like 98 to 100% in order to get proper listening level. And this Horizon here being a bit more forgiving at around, let me see, 75 out of 100. So it does seem to me that this Horizon here, you can even get away by just connecting it to a dongle like this. But then again, that is just purely on volume side. If you want to really maximize on the potential of all of these three headphones, I can confirm one thing, that definitely for this Sennheiser HD 600, it would need at least at around 700 milliwatt of power, which is why I use this, because this one delivers 750 milliwatt, and the same can be said when connected to a digital audio player like this, which is Fio M21, which I'm reviewing right now. Okay, then I am hearing something which I would consider that, which offer the kind of performance which is similar to desktop DAC amp. The dynamic itself full of authority, the soundstage and everything sounds about right. And definitely it does not feel or sound lean at all for these two here. The same can be applied either for this Horizon or this HD 600. However, this Para here being a 100 mm magnetic planar, which is why I think it is a bit more demanding. So much more real estate with the driver itself. Even running at 750 milliwatt, I do feel that it can scale even further. So meaning to say that this is where you want to use something like, 2000 or even let's say 3000 milliwatt of power in order to achieve maximum performance from this Para 2. Now, on to the best part, sound and performance. How do they perform? You might have already heard by this point of time that some people mentioned that this Moondrop Horizon is pretty much a Sennheiser HD 600 in a different trim. And I would just simply say that I agree with them, because after spending quite a bit of time listening to these two, comparing them side by side, they are indeed very similar in many ways, which is a very good thing because I am already a big fan of this Sennheiser HD 600 here. So which means that you can expect a very linear, neutral, transparent, and pretty much very organic when it comes to the timbre itself, with some differences. Okay, what are the differences? Assuming that you subject them to similar amount of power, and in this case, from this example of running 750 milliwatt of power in turbo mode from this X-Duo XD05 Basic 2, then I would even say that, this Horizon seems to offer a bit more of, let's say, improvement when it comes to the soundstage width. I do feel that it is a bit wider than this HD600, which is generally known to be not exactly a good performer when it comes to soundstage itself, and it is a bit more holographic as well. And when it comes to the entire frequency range, there's not much different when it comes to the lower frequency, because I do feel that both of them are pretty much more like a mid-bass kind of headphone, not so much on the sub-bass, because the extension is kind of a bit limited. They roll off pretty much earlier than how I would expect from higher end headphone, but they are pretty much neutral and transparent with the lower frequency. It is the mid-range that they differ. When it comes to the mid-range, for some reason, when connected to this, I am hearing that this is a bit more forward sounding with the mid-range itself, while the nature of the, the dynamics of the mid-range, it is, like I said, transparent, neutral, and linear, regardless of what type of vocal or instrument. But I do feel that this is a bit more forward as compared to this HD600. And that is another mind-blowing thing, because HD600 is already regarded as being forward sounding when it comes to the mid-range. And when it comes to the upper frequency, now, both of them, I love the upper frequency of both of them, because I would consider them as to be fairly extended. They do not exhibit that kind of far-reaching extension to a point that they become bright. So, meaning to say that this is definitely not bright sounding at all. So, there's no offensiveness anywhere from the upper mids, which is the pinna region, all the way to the uppermost extension of the treble itself. It is sparkly, it is energetic, it is uncolored, it is truthful, and the only thing lacking is just the absolute extension. Now, let's talk about Para 2. Now, this is a bit more different than the other two, because obviously being magnetic planar, being a bit more, let's say, well-tuned, it is the one that offers the most resolution, the most imaging, the most detail out of all three of them, or even as compared to other headphones which I have, because I can clearly hear very clean layering and separation, as opposed to the a bit more slightly, just very slightly congested layering and separation as exhibited by this Horizon or even HD600. Not that I'm saying it is muddy, but once you listen to this, comparing it to this, then it is clear to me that the first thing that this Para 2 offer is that cleanliness throughout the entire frequency range with the layering and the separation, and the imaging is slightly a bit more improved as well. So meaning that the details, the macro and the micro detail would appear a bit more pronounced. But as a side effect of that, because it extends a bit further in the upper frequency, it is also a bit brighter, especially when it comes to, let's say, upper mid-range all the way to the upper frequency. You're going to get a bit more of extension, a lot more of extension. You're going to hear a bit more of micro detail, and you're going to hear a bit more of pronounced sparkle and energy coming from this Para 2. But throughout the entire frequency range, it is definitely neutral, transparent, and linear. And the best part is that despite being magnetic planar, I do not feel that it is kind of like metallic sounding at all. It is in fact as close as it can get towards being sounding, natural and organic, like a dynamic driver. And it is very open with the soundstage. It is wide and open, very airy. It is tall as it is wide, and the kind of headphone which I would even use for monitoring purposes, because it offers the kind of accuracy, the kind of, let's say, precision, which is suitable for anybody who's demanding resolution, imaging, details, all that sort of stuff. And of course, when it comes to pace, rhythm, and timing, being magnetic planar, it offers speed if you need speed. However, when it comes to usage between all three of them, I might say that this Moondrop Para 2, because it is being tuned as a reference headphone, which means that it focuses on technicalities, which means that it focuses a lot more on resolution and imaging, kind of a bit, brighter as compared to the other two. It is not so suitable with certain type of music. It is definitely suitable for classical music, technical jazz, rhythm and blues, or anything which is not so energetic. Because when I use these two here, I would just simply say that they are more suited for every type of music, including rock and metal music, or any music which exhibit the kind of mixing, or let's say mastering, which exhibit a lot of treble emphasis. So for rock and metal, these two, but not for this one. Thank you so very much for watching the video until the end, without skipping, I hope. Now click like and subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram under the name of AndyAV. And also, if you'd like to support me directly, you can join the membership below for behind the scene. especially for AAV Insider and above, which will allow you to see what I am doing behind the scene.